Welcome back to Prehistoric Max Difficulty Achievement Run. I was about to place a row of Atmosuit docks to access the bottom of Teleporter Planet, but then I realized the initial placement was a poor choice. This oil biome is already cooler than most other ones, but it's still about 60 degrees hot. Since I plan to use lead to build the docks, that would reduce the overheat temperature of most buildings by 20 degrees to 55 degrees. This means the docks has a high chance of breaking later, so I plan to move them up by a few rows. The temperature here should be closer to that of my base and be well below 50 degrees. I also decided I don't need that many docks here. After all, I only need one digger to dig through the obsidian and refined iron, and at most, one more dupe to pick the iron back to base. I plan to delay using electrolyzer until Demolior is blasted, so it's probably the time to dig out the algae tiles I can find and have a more precise count of my remaining algae stockpile. Each dupe needs 66 kilograms of algae per cycle, but a lot of the oxygen need is supplied by the polluted oxygen production in Teleporter, so I would be fine with just about 8 tons of algae, or even less until cycle 100. It's also the time to actually start placing a few crucial buildings. First thing is a rock crusher to kickstart a few hundred kilograms of refined metal. There's a lot of free refined iron waiting for me at the bottom of Teleporter Planet, but I'm not gonna get it until I have the refined metal to start making suits. And the new suit docks will be placed here. The free space happens to only be enough for 2 docks and a checkpoint, but that is fine. Environment temperature is fluctuating between 40 and 50 something degrees. Maybe that will occasionally overheat damage the docks, but it will be a bit inconvenient if I move them further up. I will just let it run for a while and see. If the overheating isn't too constantly happening, it should survive. The original ladder passage is still left accessible, so they can get the lead to build in the first place. But I will seal it with tiles when everything is set up to prevent them having multiple paths and mess up Atmosuit assignment. Polluted oxygen and clean oxygen have the same density in game, and they tend to form their own layers horizontally. Therefore, the deodorizer works best when they are placed in different height levels. Adding in a higher one here should clean most of the polluted oxygen in the area. The carnivore progress looks fine, 60% done. I should have found enough critters and eggs to make it in time already, but I still need to cash in those meat with schedule so dupes get to eat the meat in time. Let's start with some jawbows. On top of turning them into smoked fish, they also excrete rust when they consume paku, and that could be a source of iron. I do need iron, but there's a lot of them I can find in the teleporter planet already, so I will just keep one jawbo egg intact to prevent them going extinct and safely eat the rest of them. Looks like I can create one more natural reserve in this area. I have already planted some of my own sweatcorns here, but there's no reason we can't have domesticated plants growing with wild plants in the natural reserve, right? The random shape of this room also makes me feel like this is the real natural reserve. Rectangle or square-shaped rooms feels more like an artificial reserve to me. Stress conditions at Second Planet is much better now. Popped eardrums issue has been dealt with, and Meep is down to 20% stress now. Lindsay is still stressed as always. Maybe I can try to do something for her? There's 2 free carpet tiles from World Generation. To give the Tickle Tootsie buff to a sleeping dupe, only the point of interest, which is the tile to the left of the cot, needs to be carpeted. So I thought about removing the carpet tile to the right and rebuild it under the second cot. Where's the reed fiber though? I can't find it on the floor. That reminds me of the missing feather fiber from Freshly Sheared Rex in episode 4. For a moment, I thought I am trolled by the game again. But after a while, I remembered that free buildings offered by World Generation is often made by weird materials and does not necessarily follow regular rules. It turns out this carpet tile is just made from pure sandstone and contains no reed fiber at the first place. Another common funny example is comfy beds, which are supposed to be made from plastic, but when they show up as a free building, they are actually made from obsidian. Sounds really comfortable, I guess. Anyway, that was me being silly this time to remove an irreversible carpet tile. But since these free carpet tiles can't be moved, there's no way I can fit two beds to utilize both of them. Now I have to transport the refined nickel to my second planet and wait for the oxygen in this area to be cleaned, and I am pretty much ready to start using atmosuits. The blastshot maker has a huge footprint, but there's really plenty of room in this area to hold a building. It's cycle 66 already, so I should have dupes that have 5 skill points to learn mechatronics engineering, and can deploy auto sweepers. Looking at this terrain, I have a convenient setup plan in mind to satisfy the required delivery for the blast shot production. We will see when all the materials preparations are ready. Oxygen cleaning progress looks good. Only 2 rows of polluted oxygen left. Let's take some time to appreciate this. First, natural looking natural reserve. Now I just have to add a few doors as room separator and put in the park signs. Then the some reservations achievement should be completed. We can sit back and watch the polluted oxygen cleaning in the meantime. There we go! Some reservations is definitely one of the easiest achievement. All we have to do is to just stop mining and destroying the entire nature for no reason. Starvation warning again, huh? Haven't got this in quite a while since I started growing my plants. Just a false alarm, I guess. But now that I look at it, isn't it great to have 26 morale in such a natural and primitive colony? Anyway, time to start the atmosuit production now. The polluted air here is almost all gone as well. There's one packet of hydrogen here that might be sucked in at some point, but we will just ignore it. 1 or 2 seconds of wrong element damage can't hurt anyone as long as there's no new source of wrong gas to keep causing damage. This has been a no filtering colony so far. I kinda want to see how far we can go like this. Time to move more dupes towards the teleporter planet. Ruby, with high machinery and building skill, would definitely prove useful on blast shot production. Although the food stockpile is kinda dropping again, and I realize the sweat corns in the bottom room are not pollinated. Maybe it's because of the pneumatic doors I added earlier. I'll try opening the doors so the wild mimicas outside have a chance to fly into this room and pollinate. Or maybe I'll need to add my own mimica plants here. Duplicant warp ready. When you're sending dupes through the teleporter, be sure to keep track on it, or at least pay attention to the notification. It requires an additional click after the dupe arrived at the machine to actually finish teleporting, so if you totally forgot about it, the dupe will be stuck inside and suffocate to death. I got the suffocation warning even though I noticed the warp is ready at the first moment, because the atmosphere around teleporter was already unbreathable for a long time. When suffocation warning pops up, the dupes have about 50 seconds to escape from the current environment and find oxygen to breath. Since I'm playing on triple speed, that's about 16 seconds. It's still long enough to bring back the dupe in one piece, as long as you are paying attention and not turning off the audio volume. The dupes will jump and wave at you to catch your attention when they're stuck in teleporter, but if you can't hear the notifications, not sure if you would ever notice the poor dupe yelling. Despite all the effort, Lindsay's stress is still at 85%. The soggy feet is not only stressing her, but also preventing the tickled tootsie buff from sleeping on carpeted bed. There's sure a lot of pools in this planet, but with a quick glance, I can't seem to find any liquid pool that she would step into, as I am not assigning work to dig inside water right now. Maybe I will give her some shower to use when I really care enough. On the other hand, this oxygen production here is doing really good, or maybe too good. The cross shape forming on the gas pump implies the pump is sucking oxygen way faster than they flow in, and it created a temporary vacuum every time the pump sucks in air. This means the pump could possibly have less than 500 grams of air to collect per second, and that would end up wasting power since it always costs 240 watts even if there is just a trace amount of air to collect. I disconnected the wire for now to stop the pump so the oxygen has time to replenish. The regular solution for this is of course an atmos sensor attached to the pump to disable the pump when the ambient pressure is low. But if you noticed, I haven't used any automation in this colony yet. There's an achievement explicitly demanding automation, so I would have to do it at some point, but I just find it kind of interesting, and I want to see how far I can go without doing it. Just want to clarify a bit, so you wouldn't mistake manually controlling the pump like this as the standard way. Anyway, time to start placing the blueprints. Blastshot maker will fit here, petroleum will be piped from the liquid reservoir above, and a lamp for speed boost will be nice too. Do I need two blastshot maker to work in parallel? I would say no. I have dupes with 9 or 10 machinery already, and they will operate the blastshot maker at double speed, so that is the same speed as two plain dupe operating, but with half the power cost. With 960 watts, blastshot maker is surely a power monster. You might have seen higher consumption numbers like metal refinery or aquatuner, which both requires 1200 watts to operate. But aquatuner's cooling the base often only runs for 20 to 50% of the time. It moves a huge amount of heat, and there's just not that much heat that it needs to handle most of the time. And metal refineries produce a lot of heat, which can be fed into the steam room and be extracted by steam turbine, which will return most of the power. If you're smelting steel, due to the enormous heat it generates, the overall power is even positive. This means 960 watts of power with no way to recycle is a really huge number. I better have a plan of good power source to supply the blastshot maker usage, especially on the super sustainable constraint. The Atmos suit checkpoint is about to finish, and actually, I guess I will just do the Atmos sensor on gas pump after all. The schedule on Demolior blasting is really tight with less than 30 cycles to go, and I'm not sure I have enough time and attention to micro on this. I will get something more to play with after the impact is resolved. I also need some more research on the power category, not because I want conductive or heavy watt wire, but I want to unlock the large dischargers, which will prove really useful to supply the blastshot production. With Atmos suits ready, it is the time to plan the digging route for mining refined iron. There is no other mission to do other than mining and retrieving the iron, so I am not going to build anything here, including ladders. If we have a proper digging pattern, the dupes should be able to access all the ductiles naturally. Not building ladders saves a lot of time, because the dupes won't be pending on each other to carry out their next task. After half a cycle, Lindsay has finished all the digging assignment. It's just that smooth when everything can be done with one dupe. I'm gonna keep track of the refined iron in the resource tab. In total, I need 5,000 kilograms of iron to make enough blast shots, and we have already dug about a quarter of them. The material overlay is really helpful. It not only filters out the metal to display on the map, but also show every kind of metal in different colors. Refined iron and iron ore both shows as this reddish color. They can be distinguished from the texture, but to be honest, sometimes I would still need to hover on the tiles to see which tile is the real refined iron. But most of the time they appear next to each other, so it's not a big deal. Digging out these tiles should fix the detouring here a bit. Within less than a cycle, about half of the needed iron is collected. The remaining iron stacks would be farther away, but I estimate we should get all digging done in another 2 cycles. Meanwhile, it is also time to start preparing the power system for blast shots. I will start with basic wires, maybe one grid for the blast shot maker itself and one grid for other stuff. If the circuit overloading gets serious, I have lead to replace them into conductive wire. I would also like metal power banks, and a lot of them. They are like the food or battery of bionic duplicants. I haven't been using any bionics yet, but the power banks can also be used to supply my power requirements. They're basically converting metal ore to quick power. Not an ideal long-term solution as metal ore could run out and can't be easily replenished, but doing it for just 30 cycles? I would say it's fine. I have already collected 2 chunks of iron, there's a big chunk here, and another one Lindsay is already currently mining. Collecting 4 chunks should make up for 5,000 kilograms of iron. It's also the time to get to the surface. On top of the 4 free blast shots, there are also some automation stuff that we can scrap to get more refined metals, and what? This is the animation you will get when you unlock the research portal and click in the notification. It has been pending there for a long time, and I didn't bother to click on it because I already know what's going to happen. But now it shows up on its own anyway, likely a force trigger when the dupes breach the surface. I already know the initial impact timer, which is 100 cycles, and the impact range is irrelevant since we're gonna blast it anyway. But since we are getting near to cycle 100, maybe it's nice to have this display so to add some excitement into the play. I also want to make the iron retrieving a 2-stage job by dropping a storage bin right next to the Atmosuit checkpoint to store iron. It will later be set to high priority, so hopefully the duplicant that goes to fetch the iron could collect multiple debris in one go, deliver to the storage bin, and continue to gather more iron without taking off the suit in the process. After all 5,000 kilograms of iron are collected into the bin, I would build another bin inside the base, with even higher priority to move the iron there. The point is, the duplicants can reach out for resources 2 to 3 tiles away from where they are standing, so they can access this storage bin by the checkpoint without having to put on suit first. The animation of putting on and taking off suits has a delay, so the last thing I want to see is they putting on suits to pass the checkpoint just to pick up 50 kilograms of iron and taking off suit to deliver to the blast shot maker. It's really wasting time not only by the suit animation, and also not carrying to their max potential in every trip. Here comes the large discharger I have just unlocked. They are an improved version of the basic compact discharger, releases the energy from metal power banks, and produces 480 watts. They have a better space to power ratio than compact dischargers, but the best thing about them is they have a built-in automation that stops them from releasing energy if no buildings are consuming power. It's like a generator that comes with a free smart battery. No external automation required, all you have to do is to plug them to the power grid without worrying about the possibility of wasting power. They do require refined metal to build, but there's so many free lead in this planet which is perfect for building these. And there we go, 5 tons of refined iron has been dug according to the resource tab. Now I just have to start the collection phase. Lindsay is still 80% stressed. That's kinda weird, because she has been working inside Atmo's suit for these 3 cycles, and that should prevent her from any environment stress. I guess we'll stay forever this way, but now that all the digging jobs are done, she might as well just learn the improved carrying skill and turn into my main supplier in this planet. It's nice that just one skill point boosts the carrying capacity from 200 kilograms to at least 680 kilograms. Here's the collection mission in action. Nice to see Lindsay delivering to the bin and immediately going to pick the next batch of iron. While large dischargers are powerful, they also drain through the power banks really fast. 2 large dischargers supplying 1 blast shot maker will consume almost 5 metal power banks per cycle, which is also the amount enough to feed 5 bionic duplicants. Fortunately, the power banks are made really fast. A zero machinery duplicant can make 1 in 60 seconds, and each power bank holds 120,000 kilojoules of energy. That is equivalent to 2,000 watts power generation. With my 10 machinery dupe, it becomes 4,000 watts or even more with a light boost. But this also means such duplicants are eligible of consuming over 2 tons of metal ore per cycle, and it can exhaust all the metal stockpile if we're not careful enough. I was running the colony with really little power consumption, if you noticed. I have no power source other than the manual generator prior to starting the blastshot industry. Although blastshot crafting is really power hungry, it is a finite process, and I know I will stop after making 96 of them, and also I'm running with high efficiency with a 10 machinery dupe. So I estimate the blastshot maker alone will consume about 30 metal power banks, or almost 4 tons of metal ore. That would be affordable, even after considering additional side power consumption, like the oil refinery. Time to decide the duplicant to be the operator of the blastshot maker. This requires pyrotechnic skills, which costs 3 skill points, and the sad part is that these 3 skill points doesn't increase the machinery, so it doesn't help with boosting the crafting speed at all. Fortunately, Ruby already started with 11 machinery, and it will happily take this role. The morale is also high enough that we don't care about if it is the interested trait of Ruby or not. We also need to think about power supply on the surface of home planet. The meteor blaster also requires power to operate. It costs just 240 watts, not a huge amount, but supplying power on a remote area could be time consuming. I will build a battery and a large discharger near the surface for this purpose, but then I need more refined metals to build the discharger. The lead in the teleporter will again come to the rescue, and I can transport them using the supply teleporter. Since I have to use lead on both sides of the planet, I need to be careful not to send my entire stockpile. By enabling the sweep-only option on the conveyor loader, and only mark the amount I want to transport for sweeping, I should be able to distribute them as I desire. The unbreathable carbon dioxide and chlorine levels are rising. It's about the time to start caring about them. I will use the latest technology of oxygen not included, which is pumping the gas into the canister filler. It's a universal solution that can deal with any types of mixed gas without use of automation. I have to unlock it first, so we'll see how it works later in the game. For these 18 cycles, we have pretty much everything set for blast shots making. The power supply from dischargers and power banks, the iron source, and the oil for petroleum. The only achievement we've done is the red light, green light from using an automation, which I somewhat wish it could be done later, just for fun. Carnivore is about 80% done. I just have to cash in about 3 lumps worth of meat. But somehow I can attack this lum even with yellow alert on. The game is trying to protect the lum with a trolling way again. I'll see how it goes after a game reload. See you next video!